Welcome back to Frameworks. If you've listened to this show so far, you know that I believe coaching is far more than programming or cueing technique. Today, we're talking about what I believe is the missing piece for so many coaches, and that is leadership. Your clients don't just want information. They want a model, someone that they can trust, someone who shows them what it actually looks like to live with discipline, integrity, and with purpose. In this episode, I'm going to share why leadership is what separates good coaches from great coaches, the difference between managing clients and leading them, why consistency, presence, and restraint matter more than just charisma, and why I believe the only way to coach with integrity is to be the example first. We'll also talk about what true leadership is and how to lead with humility, accountability, and service. So let's get into it. All right, let's start off and get one thing out of the way. To be a coach is to be a leader. Okay, so you cannot be a coach, and of course this is my opinion, but you cannot be a coach and not be a leader. Okay, so when our clients hire us, a part of them, yes, they're hiring us for our knowledge, and we think that we have, all of or some of or hopefully most of their answers or the answers to their questions, but they're looking up to you, right? There's something about you, whether it is your knowledge, whether it is how you live your life, how you show that you're doing what you're going to ask them to do, or maybe you're in a position that they would like to be in with your health and your wellness. Whatever the case is, you're in a leadership role. And if you want to lead others well, you must first lead yourself well. Okay, so you cannot ask a client to live with discipline or consistency, be accountable if you don't embody those same principles yourself. You've probably heard the concept of lead from the front. Okay, lead from the front and be the example. We talked about that all the time in the military, where it's like, where do you lead from? You lead from the front. And what does that mean? You don't lead from the rear and say, you guys go and do that thing, and I'm just going to hang back here because I'm not willing to do that thing myself. In coaching, I don't think it's much different. We have to lead from the front, and we have to be the exemplar or set the example. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that your message must match your method. And think about this, and we'll talk about this at the end, but what are yours? What is your message, and what is your method? Okay, we talk about this concept, we've talked about it for years now, of having a goal for all of the people that you work with that is independent of their personal goal. So essentially, a better way of saying that might just be have a goal that transcends all of your clients' goals. So if you have 15 clients underneath or in your roster, what is your goal for all 15 of those clients, independent of what theirs is specifically? So I want you to think about that, okay? And leadership is not about control. It's about modeling first. Then we can do things like inspire and teach and manage, but we must first model. All right, now let's get into frameworks. Okay, so this was an interesting thought experiment for me personally, really trying to put a framework around this concept of being a leader. And some of these things, like this first one, was a no-brainer. But I really had to think a little bit deeper about the next two that I'm going to talk about. Not because I couldn't think of anything, but just because there were so many things that I thought were important. And these are the three that I landed on. Number one is to be the example. Okay, so only preach what you practice. Okay, but you should only practice what you preach, if that makes sense, right? So you're only telling people to do what you will do yourself. Okay, so only preach what you practice. You always hear the term practice what you preach, but I also think that it's really, really important to not preach the things that we don't practice. You cannot lead when you haven't gone yourself. Okay, so if you haven't been there yourself, how are you going to ask a client to do the same? And this is, we've had so many conversations about this in the past on coaching, right? And how coaching someone in their health, wellness, fitness is a lot different than coaching someone to be a linebacker in football. Okay. So, if I were to be consistent in this and I were to say that, yes, this transcends all coaching, I would have to say that to be a great linebackers coach, that you would have had to be a linebacker yourself, which I don't believe, but I think health, wellness, and fitness are just different. It's because it's about the way that we live our lives. We have to had been there before, or at least know what it feels like to prescribe X, Y very specifically and authentically in my opinion. Okay. So why do I feel that? Clients can feel when you're inauthentic. Okay. So we kind of use terms like clients can sniff that. right? That's just another way of us saying that they can feel that you're not being authentic. Stewardship is also a really important thing, right? We should steward our body, our time, our relationships, and our responsibilities, right? So stewardship just means that we're taking responsibility of that thing, okay? Stewardship doesn't mean that we just take ownership over that thing. So we take responsibility of that thing and we take care of that thing, okay? So it's like a reverence or respect. Okay, so we must steward our bodies, our time, our relationships, and our responsibilities. Okay, so we should show clients what discipline, self-control, and healthy priorities look like. And then what can they do? They can model that. Okay, so we should show them what that looks like while telling them how they should do it. Okay, so examples of that: live the same training principles you prescribe. Okay, so if you talk about basic lifestyle guidelines and you're like, I want you to sleep 7 to 9 hours, I want you to drink 50% of your body weight in ounces every night, I want you to get 30 minutes of movement outside of the gym and sun every single day, I want you to sit down and chew your food and have great food hygiene. It's like, you better be doing those things yourselves. Okay, so we have to model, or we have to live the same training principles that we prescribe. I think that is unbelievably important. Okay, and don't just teach lifestyle. Okay, live it. Don't just teach it, live it. Again, model it. For you parents out there, just think about telling your children that they ought to do something, and then every time they look at you, you're doing the other thing. I think we could all agree that that is crazy, right? That's insane. There's no way that they're going to pick that up if we're just telling them to do it and we don't do it ourselves, okay? So our behavior should preach a lot louder than our words. I think that that's really important. So that's principle number one, or framework number one, is just being that exemplar. Then the next piece is, let's just call it being really consistent. So we have to be an example and we have to be consistent, okay? So leadership, right? Well, I think we all agree that if you're a coach, you're a leader, okay? You're leading that person in their health, wellness, fitness. Leadership is presence, not perfection, okay? So we have to show up day in and day out. That's leadership. And when we show up, we don't have to know it all, okay? We have to be the professional in the relationship, of course, because that's our role in that coach-client relationship, but that doesn't mean that you know it all, and it definitely doesn't mean that you should act as if you know it all. Okay, so coaches who are inconsistent, or that they think they know, or they're portraying that they know it all, and they're inconsistent in communication, energy, or accountability, they just lose respect from their clients. So let's not lose respect. Again, what did we talk about? They can just sniff that stuff out. So be steady and unwavering in the pursuit of what's good and what's true, right? Good and true, okay? True being principles, good equals good for them. It's going to move them forward. Let's teach clients to focus on small, sustainable wins over just quick fixes. There's a lot of opportunities as coaches where we can take a shortcut and we can get a really quick fix with people, i.e. drop them by 45% in calories to get some quick wins and weight loss, i.e. bash someone's heads against the wall, not literally, figuratively, in their aerobic training or anaerobic training to quote unquote boost their metabolism to see some really quick results, right? Like, there are some options where we can focus on small, unsustainable actions to get quick wins and quick fixes. So let's make sure that we're not doing that, and let's make sure that we're teaching our clients to focus on sustainable wins over those quick fixes. And just think about how you lead in one area is how you lead in all areas. Again, same concept. We've heard it, right? Like, the way that you show up here is the way that you show up everywhere. The effort you put in here is the effort you put in anywhere. Gosh, I told my 10, 11, 12-year-old young football kids coaching football this all the time, right? It's like, the effort that you show up with in practice on a Tuesday is the exact same effort that you're going to show up in the game on a Saturday. So let's show up in Tuesday as if we're getting ready to play a game, right? And so I'm telling you guys the same thing, right? Whenever we show up as a coach, we have to show up in the way that we should present ourselves. So we can't have these and we all have bad days. I get it. I'm not saying that we have to be perfect, because none of us are perfect, but we can show up a certain way even though it's more challenging on that day. So we need to challenge ourselves to do that. Okay. And then number 3, and I think this one is, it can be pretty broad, but I think this encompasses a lot of things when it comes to coaching. And I think that this characteristic is what really makes a great coach. And it's that concept of being a server. Okay. Service over self. Okay, so the highest calling of a coach is actually service. Okay. So if we were to break it down professionally, coaching is a service-based business. Okay. And I'm not just using this. I don't want to use that term as if, you're just trying to make more money, right? But it is a service-based business. Okay. So the highest calling of a coach is service. Clients do not exist to glorify you. You exist to serve them. Okay. So clients don't exist for you to post their wins on social media and give yourself a little bit of a high five and hope that people are giving you a high five on social media because you just had all of these great wins with your clients, right? So they do not exist to glorify you. Maybe it's okay to celebrate wins. I'm not saying that it's not. Just really look in the mirror and think about what's going on in your head when you do things like that. Okay. So we would call that would kind of go to this concept of like servant leadership, right? I'm a leader, but I'm serving you through that leadership, which is almost counterintuitive for some people because it's like, what do you mean I'm a servant? I'm not a servant to them. I'm like, I know the things that they need to do and they don't know them, right? So they just need to listen to me, right? Not that simple, right? It's give and take. You're serving them, right? What do you need from me to get to whatever success means for you, right? I hope you guys understand what I mean there. And we have to teach ownership and not dependence. Okay. The goal is to empower people to stand on their own. So those 2 points are wrapped around this concept of autonomy. Okay. We need to teach ownership, not dependence on you as their coach. Autonomy. The goal is to empower people and to be able to stand on their own, i.e. autonomy. Okay. So those are our 3 frameworks that I really want everyone to wrap their heads around and just wrestle with. Think about those things. I did a bunch of wrestling and thinking about those 3 things, and those are the 3 that I landed on. An early struggle for me was trying to manage clients versus lead and teach them. Okay, so I just remember it like it was yesterday. Client roster was increasing and everything was good, but I was just managing that client roster. It was a roster to me, right? I wasn't like looking at, Betty. I've never coached anyone named Betty, but that's okay. I'm using a made up person. I never looked at Betty and said like, how can I lead Betty, right? Like, how can I move her forward specifically? So I got caught in this trap where I was just managing Betty as just a client on the roster, right? One of the 30, 40, 50, whatever, however many clients I had at that time. So I was just hyper-focused on building efficiencies in program design, managing clients, looking at objective results and just making sure that I was moving people forward. And I really wasn't thinking a lot about actually leading and teaching them. And like I said, right, like the way we lead in one area is the way that we lead in all areas. So I think that, in my own experience, there was just breakthroughs in other areas of my life, like how I was leading my family and how I was leading over here and over there. And I think that, I know that had a profound impact on my relationship with the people that I was working with, especially when I was working with all of these people in person. So I remember when I shifted my focus from just trying to manage a client load to intentionally trying to lead and teach my clients, just a perspective shift. But that for me personally, that was really, really helpful. Okay. So leadership starts with personal discipline and clear standards. So a part of that, the clear standards piece I had in play, the personal discipline I had in play. So I was good there. Right. But I didn't realize that breakthrough yet. Right. And I didn't realize that breakthrough because I didn't make the decision to intentionally lead and teach my people. Okay. I had all of the systems, I had clear standards, I had structure, I had discipline, but I didn't make the decision yet. Okay. So this principle carries into everything, right? Our marriage, motherhood, fatherhood, team leadership, how we show up on a daily basis, the whole 9. Okay. So just really think through how you're showing up. And that leads us to my ask for you today. So my ask for you today is just to take 5 minutes and ask yourself just a few questions. Where am I asking my clients to do something that I don't consistently model? That doesn't mean that you're asking your clients to do the wrong thing. What that means is that you're probably doing the wrong thing, right? So as we're coaching people, we should also be coaching ourselves, right? As we're trying to move a client forward, we should always be trying to move ourselves forward, and whatever that means for us specifically. So if that question uncovers something, unpack that. Where am I asking clients to do something that I do not consistently model myself? Number 2, where am I choosing comfort over consistency? Comfort over consistency. An example of this is, I'll just make it really simple and kind of go out of the leadership conversation. But comfort is not having a clear game plan and a clear weekly schedule. Consistency is having a very clear game plan and clear weekly schedule. And we talked about this in episode 1, where we talked about where having frameworks is actually very freeing, right? It's uncomfortable at first because you're committing to something, okay? But make sure that we are not choosing comfort over consistency. Let's be as consistent as we can possibly be. And then number 3, where are you serving your own ego versus generally helping others grow? Okay. Won't even give any examples there. Okay. But just think about that. Are there areas in your coaching practice or maybe in your life where you're serving your own ego versus genuinely helping others, being that servant leader? Really think about those things, wrestle with those things. And if you answered yes to any of those things, or if you identified areas, don't just ignore it and move on, really dig in there. Okay, so great coaches don't just deliver great programs. Okay, they deliver presence, patience, and they are an exemplar. So that's the work, and that is the framework. Appreciate you guys. Comment. Let's start the discussion. If you're on YouTube or whatever the case is, I'll look at all these comments, and I won't ignore the bad ones. I'll even respond to those. So let's stay connected, and really looking forward to seeing you guys next week.